Hello and welcome to Bounty into Comics. My name is John Trent. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief at Bounty into Comics, and I'm joined by my co-host Donald Edmonds. How you doing? We're going to be excellent. Glad to hear that. It's always good to hear that. So we're going to be talking about Chapter 15, The Believer. I believe it's what it's called. I couldn't find where it was in the show. It wasn't where it normally was after the little Star Wars intro. I didn't see it, so
yeah, I saw it.
Okay, maybe I'm just blind. I have a hard time figuring out where to find that in a lot of times. But yeah, so chapter 15 called The Believer. Let's just go general reactions to start with here. So, what was your kind of initial reaction to the show? Overall.
Oh gosh, it tried to be deep, but then it ended up stumbling over its own damn feet because there was this scene where Bill Burr is like angry at an officer for the atrocities of war that the officer had brought him through.
Yeah, I wrote his name down.
Yeah.
His name, I had to turn the subtitles on. I wrote it down somewhere. Valen Hess is his name.
Hess, yeah. And then he shoots him obviously, but he goes through this thing of like before when he's riding with Mando, he's going through this thing of like, hey, every side has casualties in war. Every side has a thing that they go through during their thing, and so that shipment of Rhydon, so that shipment of Rhydon or whatever that was, Rhydonium, was going to be used by the Empire, or what's the remnants of the Empire, to like terrorize other parts of the galaxy so they could want order.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to create a bunch of false flag situations.
Yeah.
To really like make the New Republic spread its already thin resources, I guess. Yeah. And then people will be clamoring for the Empire to come back and restore order.
Right.
And that's what it sounded like he was saying.
And then the pirates were coming in to blow up the shipment of Rhydonium. But then you realize, they're blowing it up because they don't want the Empire to expand their reach and use these kinds of these false flag attacks to gain foothold in the galaxy again. And
hey,
then it's just like
going great. How are you doing?
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, keep going, Don. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, it's just like he's making this argument of at one point in the show, and then he gets pissed at the officer that kind of brought him into that situation at another part of the show. It's just
I mean, it's a similar complaint to what we've had in throughout the show. The characters don't stay consistent to what they say they're talking about a lot of times.
Huge inconsistency, especially with something that deep of a subject.
Yeah, that wasn't even actually something I kind of put down. I glossed over that. I'll be honest. I glossed over that one. But did you like the show or did you not like the show?
That took me out of it. Yeah. Yeah, that took me out of it. And then the way he kind of left, it didn't seem very
that
eventful.
Was weird.
It was just very like nonchalant.
Yeah, they were trying to make a joke out of it, I feel like.
Leave the stage left.
So for my initial reaction, I enjoyed the episode overall. Again, the action set pieces I thought were really well done and interesting. We got to see Slave One a little bit in action, in a dogfight a little bit. I really wish we got a bit more of that. I thought it ended a little bit too quickly. The chase scene was interesting. I enjoyed the combat scenes on top of the cargo thing. It was basically they were trying to do like an Old West train. Basically, they're protecting the train from the robbers, and it got that. So I enjoyed that, and then the combat sequences on that were interesting. I thought that was actually really pretty. I thought the choreography was pretty well done on that. aside from the part at the end where they get to the well, I'll talk about the story problems with it, but I thought the actual like choreography and the combat was good, but I thought the story elements leading up to it had some problems. But yeah, I for overall, I guess I kind of enjoyed it. But again, like you said, there are quite a bit of problems with this episode as well. And I think that starts off right away. The first problem is that now, like Marshall Dune, she's like she can just like go into this New Republic prison yard. Which I can only imagine that people are going to be whining about this. They're like, oh my God, how can the New Republic have slave labor in their prison camp? It's so horrible. I just know that's going to happen. I can see that already. That's what I thought. I was just like, oh, people are going to be complaining about that.
I didn't see
any recycling plant.
I saw only white people as
prisoners.
As prisoners, though, so they might not complain that much.
I did find it interesting that the warden is a droid. I thought it was going to be a K2 unit at first, but it just had the K2 legs, and then it was some other kind of droid. Member berries there.
Yeah.
Member berries from Rogue One with the K2 unit already. But yeah, so apparently she has authority as a marshal to take a prisoner out of a prison, and just do whatever she wants with him. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Newfound powers.
Yeah, so I thought that was just like, okay, we're going there, I guess. Boba Fett has already
skipped a beat, yeah.
Say that again. What's that script?
They skipped a beat. They jumped over a hurdle because I actually pitched this as a possibility in my previous review, which is you, like an authority figure like a marshal, can go to the government and say, hey, we have this emergency where a child has been kidnapped. This person in prison might know where they are. I'd like to request like a day pass on them so that they can help us find this kid. And the Republic, assuming that they're altruistic, are like, yeah, if it's going to save a child, yeah, we'll authorize you to take this prisoner out for the time it needs, but he has to be returned. But I would also expect there to be a Republic liaison as well with Cara Dune regarding that.
Yeah, you would think that since she's working for the New Republic and they're going to infiltrate a Imperial facility, that the New Republic would be interested in learning about that Imperial facility, given the fact that they literally have X-Wing pilots patrolling the Outer Rim, searching for possible Imperial connections.
Imperial bunkers or any sort of staging grounds where they could probably keep the Empire still alive. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this is what I'm saying. The storytelling, there's huge storytelling issues. If you remove this episode from the rest of the story, I think it was a good episode. But within all the other constraints of what we've seen so far, there are like, and we're just at this is just the first 2 minutes of the show. Mm-hmm. That we're having problems with. Boba Fett got new armor. They did not show his lower torso. They did not show his stomach. I think all the shots were above the stomach.
He got a paint job on his armor.
I didn't like the paint job either.
It was too muted. It didn't have any life to it.
Yeah, I agree. I saw it and I was just like, it needs a little gloss, maybe.
Something. Yeah.
Orange Hat says he likes the new armor. They should have left the dent unpainted. It was good seeing him with the EE3 blaster he had from the OT. Or was it EE33? I forget. It's one of those. Yeah, I didn't even catch that. You're way that I didn't catch that at all.
We're 2 for 2, Orange Hat, on disagreements.
But yeah, no,
it just looked weird. It didn't feel the same. Like I thought if they were going to do a new paint job, they should have it reflect the same level of quality that Jango Fett's armor was in that regard, but still with the same color scheme. But it was just too flat and muted. It was like someone just did car spray paint over top of it, and then just said, "Okay, good, let's go."
Yeah, well, I mean that's something that they can fix, though. Hopefully, if they get some feedback on that, they can fix that. So yeah, he got the new armor. So the reason why they need Mayfeld in the first place is so they can infiltrate an Imperial base. Or at least that's the reasoning, and then they don't even need him because the Mando does it himself.
Yeah, so that base thing was a big red herring. It's like they have to scan your face. Yeah, but he's not a member of the Empire, so wouldn't it say he's an unknown person?
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, that whole thing was weird. But I like they don't even need Mayfeld for the job, the way it was actually shown in the show, because he doesn't do it. It's Mando does it. So like, there's no need to even go to the scrapyard and get him in the first place.
Just take his thing, his little keychain,
which they stole off a stormtrooper.
Yeah, they got that. The data. Yeah, they got that from the stormtroopers, right?
Yeah, the only thing that Mayfield did was provide them a planet where they could steal the data from.
Yeah, he told them that it was on Morak, and they could have just gotten that from him at the planet.
Well, at the prison.
At the prison planet. Yeah. So again, another issue there. With that, you got the member berry. That was a whole. It's what it was. It was all a member berry to the old code in the Return of the Jedi, so they can get onto Endor, right, with the Imperial shuttle. That's what that was. It was a member berry. So like, because he talks about that, like, oh, it's I still have my old Imperial codes. It's like, dude, you don't think they learned from that? Like, they changed their codes. Like,
well, if he was assumed killed in battle, I would always say let's get rid of the codes if we lost a soldier in battle, which was later kind of provided through exposition, but not really.
Yeah, I guess with Hess a little bit maybe.
But like, I know he understands Imperial protocols, but I didn't see anything where those came into play for this episode.
No, because it was member berries from Han and Luke infiltrating the Death Star.
Infiltrating the shield generator. Yeah, it was. And then on top of that too, for the first time in this episode, we actually saw stormtroopers shoot those pirates with accuracy as the truck was going into the cargo hangar. Like, it was like, when did these stormtroopers learn how to aim?
But then when they're trying to get the heroes, they're just cannon fodder again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just, so I did like that they were actually doing research on the facility or the planet. They were looking at it. They were like, they had the scopes of the actual like base of the mining facility, and then they were like actually scouting it. They were like, they created a plan. I was like, oh, thank you. They finally are actually doing something that they should be doing. Like you just can't go run blind head first all the time, which is what Mando I feel like does all the time. But they actually were formulating a plan. Then the reason why they try to give it another reason why they need Mayfeld is because genetic scanning. And then I thought it was weird that Fett might be recognized. Like he worked for Vader, so like I don't know. That was kind of I
mean, are there any clone troopers still alive that serve the Empire? Couldn't that also be something they could work out?
Oh yeah, that's right. He could think that that's right. They might think that he's a clone trooper. You're right. I didn't think about that.
Still alive.
Yeah. Even if they weren't any alive, his signature might trigger the system or whatever.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story potential thread that they could have explored. It's like, oh, well, I mean, my father was cloned to be made into all these stormtroopers or Republic troopers at the time, which were forgetting the word, but are repurposed as stormtroopers during the early years of the Empire before they started recruiting regular people.
Right.
Maybe he could have posed as a trooper with a high rank or something to get in, because his genetic code would be identical of the clones. He's just an unaltered one. He just doesn't have the age issue, so he could probably walk right in there without any reservations, and the battle scars on his face completely viable for someone who served within the Empire for decades.
Yeah. So so it didn't make any sense why he was opting out. That was kind of weird. Because I would have thought like he would have been the perfect one. I mean, obviously they wanted Mando to go in, and they are obviously, his weapons aren't his religion anymore, and he doesn't really follow the way.
Yeah, he's making compromises for his love of the child is the best that you can infer there.
Yeah. I did like the transport stormtrooper outfits. I thought those actually looked kind of cool. We hadn't seen those before, and I kind of like those. They looked really cool. And then we got to see the what is it called? the Rogue One stormtroopers from the beach, the Scarif stormtroopers.
Oh, the ones on the turret.
No, not the turret ones. The Scarif troopers were like part of the welcoming party on the bridge.
Okay.
Like, they were in like the it was like the brown and greenish ones. And then you had like, so I like that you got to see a lot of the different types of stormtroopers. I did like that. And then you got to see them. There were like you obviously there was like some miners there too, so it was like believable that was like a mining. They were like doing a mining operation. Mm-hmm. I did. So Gina showed off her like MMA skills when she. I like that, showing off. Anytime she does that, that's good. She should always kind of be doing that when she's doing an action piece. So I thought that choreography and that when she takes out the two transport,
she smacks their heads against the console.
Yeah, I like that. I thought I enjoyed that. More of that, please. Give me more of that. And then you get Mayfield doing the joke about putting on the suit. Oh, this guy was smelly, and it's like, oh, remember Barry Hahn making the jokes about stormtroopers being like Luke being too short and stuff like that, and putting on the when they're from the regular Star Wars. That's what that was.
Yeah.
And then okay, so I'm surprised you didn't have issues with. So I think this is kind of like the big gist of this one. He takes off his armor and he puts on the stormtrooper armor. You still can't see him, and then you actually had some interesting discussions between him and Mayfeld as they're going to the drop point, and so I actually thought, like, you were kind of pointing this out earlier, Don. I actually thought that was kind of interesting, the conversation that they were having, because that's a lot of like what a lot of our criticisms that we've made. It's just like, what does this guy actually believe? Like, he seems to like change his beliefs depending on the situation that he's in. And Mayfeld was like pretty much said like, dude, you just change your beliefs the more desperate you get, and that would end up being true. I think that really takes away from his character.
It does.
I think it takes away from the whole code that they try to institute in season 1, and maybe they're moving away from that altogether. What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing. When he was in that room with Mayfeld and they took out that whole room of people, that would have been a point where I was like, okay, they could have just did the facial scan with Bill Burr's character and took out everybody in the first place.
Yeah,
not go through that whole rigmarole of, whatever
or
that was.
The entire concern that Bill Burr had about being recognized ended up being a non-issue because the guy didn't recognize him.
Yeah, and Mando didn't have to take off his helmet. Just waste everybody, and that's fine. Which they eventually did anyway. Stupid.
Yeah. It's very manipulative. You can see the writer's hand manipulating the character actions to hit the set pieces, and that's one of the things that is not just an issue with The Mandalorian, but a lot of other television shows right now.
Yeah, I know people. I think Robert Rodriguez kind of showed us the light. I mean, he got like 19 pages.
Yeah.
So to me, they're just writing it while they're shooting it. Because he's like, oh, I gotta write in all these action sequences. I gotta make that longer. I gotta like add something to this because there's not a lot there. I think
he chose to do that. There were some episodes last season that I think were only like 21 minutes, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right. Which means they probably just followed what was in the script.
Yeah, they didn't go further. Yeah.
So
props to Robert Rodriguez for adding some extra content for us.
I guess. Orange had to say, and they did this to placate Pedro. He wanted his helmet off. Yeah, that is the rumor, but it doesn't make sense. Story like if you were gonna have him take his helmet off, you have it with Bo-Katan, or you have it with like Boba Fett, like showing him like, dude, like I'm like literally. My father was a foundling. I'm a Mandalorian. Like, we don't believe in that. And like, you have him like talk about like an actual like the beliefs of the different Mandalorians or something like that. And he's just like, oh well, maybe what I've been taught is wrong, and I need to like talk to some different Mandalorians. And he like converts or something to a regular Mandalorian instead of whatever the child of the watch.
Well, his belief isn't being as challenged as it should be. Like, it was first presented as a challenge with Bo-Katan's episode.
Right.
And then it's just kind of abandoned after that.
Well, it's completely abandoned now. He just took it. Bill Burr, like they killed everyone that saw him except for Mayfeld. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it does even that doesn't even matter because he's already abandoned it himself within himself. Like he chose to do that. He abandoned the way.
To a point. I mean, there's a story technique called "In the Skin of the Enemy," and it's used in Star Wars where they put on the stormtrooper uniforms, and it's basically just for infiltration purposes. It doesn't actually compromise. I mean, to a degree, it can compromise, say, for instance, the philosophy of the Mandalorian, which is basically the rule that we understood it was that no one sees his face, no one else removes his helmet, and that's as broad as it is. And unfortunately, because they made it so broad, and they didn't really define all this stuff. The Mandalorian, you can kind of fudge around with the idea of him removing his armor to replace another armor, so long as no one sees his face or is able to identify him, without it violating the way, because it's about the mission at hand, which is also a Mandalorian creed, is like completing the mission by any means necessary. So you can fudge with that. I don't like the idea that you have to fudge with that, but the way that they set it up, it creates an allowance, and I think it also has to do with the fact that they don't have a conviction or solid idea with how they want to treat what the Mandalorian is doing within their show.
Right. I get the point of him putting the stormtrooper on. I get that allowance, but the fact that when he did the facial scan though, and people are actually like seeing him, and then Bill Burr like clearly sees him when they're having like the toast or whatever, like that to me, that's the allowance isn't there anymore.
Yep.
He's completely just abandoned whatever principles and belief system he had.
Yeah, it's like they didn't put him in a position where he has to reconcile, okay, I've done the part I need, let me put my helmet back on. And there's no challenge to that. Like the officer didn't say, why are you putting your helmet back on? Why don't you come have a drink with me? Because you did the successful thing here. Like you need that type of thing in order for him to say, oh crap, I got to keep this helmet on to maintain my cover, or else the whole mission is botched. And therefore you have a compromise that makes logical to his goal, which is, okay, if I have to sit down with this guy and have a drink, and he's not going to accept me wearing my helmet because that might cause questions I don't have the ability to answer because he's not Imperial, then that could compromise their issue. But because of how the story goes, where Mayfield starts to antagonize the superior officer, and then eventually shoots him, and it throws all those potentials for conflict and for issues and philosophy and goals completely out the window. It's like, okay, now we just got to get out.
Yeah, I really thought he was I really thought he was going to try and put the helmet back on like right away. And then the officer would like ask him like, why are you doing that? Because you would still want him to be in disguise because you're in an Imperial base. Those people probably know the transport drivers. They probably like mess with them. They know who's driving transport truck number 5 or whatever they were. Yeah, you would think people like someone would know what they look like. So they'd be like, who is this guy? Like I've never seen this guy. And then like so yeah, you want to keep your helmet on to like try and keep that cover going. But yeah, you also like you lose all the tension that they had with the the discussion with the officer on that too. And the whole antagonizing thing, like that was just you could just see that was just total. Like you pointed this out, Don. That was just total. The writer like literally just like we need to have a big gunfight here, and so we need to have him shoot the guy in the saloon because it's what it was. They're in a bar, like shoot the guy in the saloon, have the big gunfight, do the escape.
Yeah.
It's a very convenient flaw of emotion because we don't know anything about Mayfield at this point. So he's like, yeah, I used to be part of this mission, and you sacrificed everybody, but I survived, and then I left the Empire to be a mercenary. And it's like,
right, and then he just had that conversation with Mando saying like everyone dies, like there's no difference, like it doesn't matter, like he literally, but then he's like triggered by seeing this guy all of a sudden. I don't know.
It's just so it's out of a left field thing. Like it didn't feel organically established. Like if that Imperial officer did recognize him as he feared, he's like, hey, you were from that battle like years ago. I thought you died. Like boom, you have a great twist and turn of the story. You're like, oh crap, now we know there's something else here. And if Mayfield decides to kill him, then you can kind of get that cause and effect actions. Like, yeah, he recognized me because he tried to kill me and all my men, this thing, and that's why I'm not with the Empire anymore, even though I still believe in the overall philosophy or what have you. And it's or you
could even have like the officer like actually knows the people that work underneath of him, and he's like, dude, you're not stationed here. Who are you? And then he like, and then that's why he
slowly
has to kill
pieces
him.
it together. He's like, wait, no, I don't know. I know you're not supposed to be here, but I recognize that face. I recognize that bald head and that ginger beard and that snarky accent that you give everybody. You're the troublemaker under my command from like 5 years ago, but you're supposed to be dead.
Yeah, and it just goes to like reinforce this stupid idea that Disney Lucasfilm has that the Imperial people are idiots, and that comes from Rian Johnson like making Hux a complete and utter dunce in the first opening scene in The Last Jedi. This guy like literally built Starkiller Base, blew up the entire New Republic's core systems, and then he's like taking a prank phone call, and he's like a joke. Like, no, the Imperials were like super like Tarkin didn't even fear Vader. He had Vader on like a leash. Like yeah, some of the Imperials were like obviously the people under Tarkin were fearing him, and then once Tarkin was out of the picture, like Vader was top dog for the most part. But I mean, Imperials were like they got the job done. Like the battle at Hoth, the general who leads the ground assault, he just is like he was like super calculating, got it done, got his AT-AT to the shield generator, blew it up. Then they're able to like get their shuttles down to Hoth, and they're almost able to get the Millennium Falcon. They use an Imperial fleet to destroy an asteroid field.
Yep, they're just blowing it up.
Yeah. Like, these people, they're not, like, idiots, which is what they are now. Idiots and cannon fodder.
What it is basically, I mean, not to sort of, like, create delineations within the fan group, but you can tell if someone who enjoys Star Wars says, yeah, Imperial Stormtroopers can't shoot for anything, they're the ones that have kind of looked at that aspect of the Stormtroopers on a superficial scale, which is like, yeah, they didn't hit our heroes in Star Wars because we find out from Vader's exchange that they deliberately wanted to secure a tracking beacon on the Falcon to find the rebel base and destroy the rebels because Leia wasn't giving up any information.
That was one of the big arguments, yeah.
Bespin, we don't know exactly why the Stormtroopers didn't kill Leia and Chewie as they're trying to make a run for her to save Han. Like that maybe you could argue is a little bit of a plot contrivance to a point.
They might know, like, I mean, obviously Leia was a top prisoner still, so they might have seen value in wanting to keep her alive.
Exactly. There's some speculation room there that you can play with a little. But like even with Return of the Jedi, that's where it's a bit more contentious because it's really back and forth because you have the Stormtroopers are, they are killing some rebels during that battle at the shield generator. Leia gets shot in the shoulder, but they're also being taken out by little people dressed as teddy bears. And the effectiveness of them supposed to be like the Viet Cong guerrilla war soldiers as they're alleged to have been a copy of did not translate in the way that I think was intended. It looks too cute as opposed to too scary and violent. Like they just didn't nail that execution.
If they were Wookiees, it would have worked.
Wookiees makes it easier because they're giant. Yeah. But if you're looking at like little, like there's only a couple of moments where you're like, hey, that's kind of clever. Like when they chop the 2 tree logs and then they come in and they pinch that ATST between. Yeah. Like that's clever and like okay, that's cool. But then you have them flying on like a Batwing glider and then dropping rocks on top of stormtroopers and they're just like dropping like flies instead of shaking it off because it is armor that they're wearing. They're jumping on top of that. Like it's like it would have been funny to see like a little Ewok take a knife and then stab a stormtrooper like in the side of the kneecap where there isn't that armor to protect them, like that little gap. I mean, it's a little violent and gruesome, but at least you can see like, oh yeah, these guys are serious. Like they're going for the smart little tactical stuff.
They do. There's that one scene where they get one and I think they like gang pile them and they start like clubbing them or something like that.
Yeah.
If I remember. So there's a little bit of that. I don't know.
A little bit of trivia about the Ewoks. They shaved them later and used them in the film Willow. Nobody? No? Okay.
Oh, gosh.
One of the things I did find interesting, I'm going to go back to that Mayfeld conversation in the transport. He says Mandalore doesn't exist.
Well, it's enslaved. I think that's the other, or maybe there's just no one on it because it can't be tamed anymore.
Yeah, compared it to Alderaan. Yeah, Bo-Katan said it was like poisoned, so she said it was still there, but it had like been poisoned.
Maybe that's right now.
Is it uninhabitable for the moment, or?
That's what I got the impression from Bo-Katan, but now Mayfield was comparing it to Alderaan, and we know Alderaan was destroyed.
Gone.
We know Alderaan is gone, but Mandalore might be. Well, maybe he's referring to Mandalore with regards to the fact that they're dislocated culture, like their home is not where they're from anymore. They're scattered all over the galaxy, so they don't really have that home.
Right. Yeah.
And because of that, it's not Mandalore. Like it's really abstract.
Yeah. It was weird. I was like, why are you comparing it to Alderaan then? So that was something that just I picked up on that. Mark 63366 says, "Beware the Ewok with a ship."
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know. The Ewoks captured they captured Leia and Han and everyone, right? And they made
in a very silly animal trap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Luke could have used the Force to break out of that quite easily. He just chose to reach for his lightsaber instead.
Yeah. Skullman says, this might sound crazy, but I actually don't hate the prequels. I love Revenge of the Sith, second best Star Wars film, only to Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the prequels were pretty consistent in the overall story they were telling. But I mean, it's been pointed out that there's obviously issues with them as well, and I'm not going to lie that I'm not going to say that there aren't, because there are. But yeah, I like Revenge of the Sith. I don't like it as much as the original trilogy, but it's probably the best prequel movie.
It's a very dense prequel movie. It has a lot of stuff to get across in a very short time, and I think it did what it needed to do for that trilogy. With how Lucas started it.
Yeah. I found that when I did find it, there was this one line that Bill Burr's character gave when they were the transport ahead of them, Transport 4 gets attacked and blown up, and you don't know who's attacking them or whatever. And the operator on the radio says, "Proceed with caution," and he's like, "Are you serious?" I thought that was funny. It's just we can see the explosion in front of us. Proceed with caution. These people are trying to kill us.
Something's trying to kill them. Yeah, I was curious by that. I liked that little build up to it. It's like, oh man, these other transports are being blown up. Who's there? Who else is there to blow these things up?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be some local guerrilla fighters, and we know they're not. It doesn't seem like they're locals because we saw the locals and they were human, and then they said these are pirates, but their goal is to blow up the Duridium, which I thought was weird. As if you're a pirate, that's usually not what you do.
You want to steal, yeah.
Yeah, you want the booty, you want the loot.
And the methods they go about it were kind of weird because it's they had all these thermal detonators. And they're trying to plant one inside the cargo where I'm just thinking, well, it's a thermal detonator. Couldn't they just lob 6 or 7 at them, blow up the shielding of the cargo, and then blow up what's inside afterwards instead of having to physically get on there and do it?
Yeah, I was about to get to that. They only start to try and throw you can hear them turn them up only after Mando throws it out at them.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's really these guys just attacked they destroyed 4 of the transports already, and now they can't just throw a bomb, throw a grenade at this what is it again? What is this involved? Rhydonium.
Yeah, the thermal detonators onto Rhydonium, and based on speed that can become more volatile. That was kind of interesting. I didn't quite understand the gravity of that, but I understood the stakes. If it gets redlined, you're in trouble. I'm okay, that's cool. Don't know why, but I'll buy into it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I thought that was. You didn't need to know the why. That it wasn't super. I didn't think that was super relevant. You just knew that this alien.
These are the terms. Yeah, they defined the terms.
Yeah. And it was clear. So I like that. I did like that. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I wrote here. Rhydonium creates a ton of tension because, like you said, you have to make sure that they can't blow up your stuff. And he was and then you want to make sure that you have to stay at a steady pace.
Yeah, it's reverse speed.
Yeah. Reverse speed. One thing I thought was weird, the blaster ran out of ammunition,
out of juice,
or charge or something. Yeah.
Charge. Yeah, I just thought that was
jammed or broke. I don't know if that was weird. I didn't fully understand that. I might have to rewatch that part.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to go with an Old West scene that he he ran out of bullets, so he had to like beat him up, like just that kind of Western trope. Yeah, I wrote here, pirates finally realize they can throw the detonators right before the TIE fighters show up. And it's, you have TIE fighters, why were they not escorting your transports in the first place?
To begin with, yeah.
Yeah, so, again, like I said, story issues. And that
TIE fighters hitting their target.
They were, yeah, they were. I said, why weren't the TIE fighters escorting the cargo? And then you have all those other soldiers in the base. What are they doing? They're just standing there,
standing around,
chilling
on a bridge until like they needed to show up to shoot them. It's like you have this like precious cargo that you want, and you know it's being attacked. Why haven't you like
no escort service to it? Like that's what's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's cargo, volatile. The only escort is the 2 drivers inside. There's no one on top of the thing. There's no other vehicles. There's no speeder bikes.
Yeah.
It's just what I thought this is important to them, and then you find out that the only transport that day that made it through, and you're like, oh my god, this is so inefficient.
It's typical government workers. 2 guys are actually doing the work while 50 of them are just standing around.
Isn't it the 90-10 approach? Like 10% of people do 90% of the work.
Orange Hat Reviews is saying that the Rhydonium explosions are actually supposed to be rainbow hue. Rather than just like a regular explosion. I'm just going to chalk that up to animation versus a live action maybe, because they looked like, I don't know, was that the tank, what do they call it, the volume? Is that what it's called?
Sure.
That they film in? The tank or something like that?
You mean on stagecraft?
No, stagecraft, yeah.
Yeah, she called it, like, Kennedy called it like the volume or something like that though.
Oh.
No, I don't know what she was referring to there, but like
it's like the big thing where they film the show in, and she says they're building like 4 more of them, one in Australia, one in Atlanta, and one in the UK, I think.
they're building a few more than that, from what I've been told. Those are the ones that they've got like everything all lined in a row ready for production next year. But I think the ones that they're building now won't be done till the end of next year, and it's a lot more from what I've
all them Star Wars shows.
It's designed to be a leasing property so that they can lease them out to other studios to use and make money off the rentals.
Yeah. So there's that, which, I mean, that's just, I mean, you would think you'd want to stay, like, I didn't know that. I don't remember Rhydonium. I don't remember the Rhydonium explosions in the Clone Wars. I'd have to go back and watch that. But there, I mean, literally there should be someone who does that and knows that and makes sure that that is consistent, or it has like, they have like some kind of explanation why it's not. Maybe this Rhydonium is pure, and the stuff we saw in Clone Wars had some kind of additive or something that
or was refined into more weaponized.
Well, Filoni doesn't care about the details of it.
Well, there's clearly we've seen in the last season and a quarter. There's no continuity person on this in the room.
Not even Filoni.
I don't think they have one.
I think Filoni's taken that job, but he doesn't care. He's never cared.
Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, the Lord of the Rings, the chick who's going to be playing Galadriel says they have someone like dusting the floor to make sure there's like the proper amount of dust on the floor. It's like, what?
What?
They're going all out on that.
The chick, what is her name? Morphid something. She's like I think she's Irish or Scottish or something. She did an interview. She was just like, yeah, there's people that like are like dusting the floor to like make sure there's like the proper amount of like dust on the floor.
Yeah, I think for like when they go into old places to see like how many years of dust are there, they're calculating that based on the lore of Lord of the Rings. Like, yeah, this hasn't been in for like 40 years. Okay, we need 40 years of dust in this room.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no, dude, it was insane. I couldn't, like, we got the article up on the website, but yeah, I couldn't believe that's what she claimed. It might not have been dust. It was something super like meticulous like that though. I think it was something about, I feel like it was dust though. Yeah, so then we got, obviously, after they infiltrate they actually get in, they deliver their package. Then you get this like kind of tension with Val and Hess. You get the he's like they show him like Hess is like onto them. He's like, why are these transport troopers like just talking out there? Like, that's kind of weird. And he's kind of like looking at them, and while they're having like this discussion about Mayfeld refusing to do what he was brought out to do, like I don't know. I felt like there too there was a missed opportunity. Like the Mando should like not give a crap about Mayfeld and maybe have like pulled a knife or something that would have been out of sight. And he's like, you better get in there and do it, or like you're not coming back. Like I don't know. I just
maybe he should have left his helmet on and then took it off when he came into the mess and like stared away from the guy so he wouldn't be recognized.
Right, or just like what Mando did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that
no,
that
the whole
was
recognizing
the
thing
there.
is it was a personal contrived plot just to get the Mando in there to do the same thing, and then they don't deliver on it because Mayfield has a conversation with the guy he's trying to avoid.
Yeah. But what I thought was interesting too, I think they cut this, but so like they're in the mess, but then they go to like another room to do their toasting, right?
No, it's just further. It's deeper to like the camera right of the room.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
It just looks. It's just weird the way that they
cut it.
They cut it and the way that they filmed it. Yeah, because it looks
Okay.
like it's not. Yeah, the geography gets a little wonky for that moment.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was just. I was like, so he's literally walking around the entire base, showing his face to everyone. But it was just the people in the mess. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did like this. I thought this was interesting. This was something that the original trilogy did. We got that reference to the Clone Wars in the original trilogy, and we're like, what is that? It's like some old battle. Like you feel like that the universe is well worn, and we got this Operation Cinder on Burnin Khan, and I feel like
the
that's
Battle of
probably,
Burning Khan. Yeah.
yeah. Is that I didn't recognize that.
Is that from the
Is
novels?
I didn't recognize it either, but I liked how they built the lore up, and I like the commentary of the officers. Like, hey, someone knows their history to show like there's a lot there going around that not everybody kind of picks up on, which is actually kind of good for the galaxy because of the massive size it is, right? Like,
yes.
Not everybody's going to know every single intimate detail, but if you go from one planet to one planet, you're probably going to know a story you didn't expect to know or expect them to know at some point because, how often is the Empire going to reveal some of the secrets? Like, are they really going to advertise that, yes, that Death Star that we built got blown up by a bunch of rebels? Like, they're not going to say that. They're going to be like, no, the rebels attacked one of our space stations and did some damage. Not the big important one that we're building. No. Like, so now we're after them. Like,
Except there's footage in the bar on Tatooine.
Yeah, like that there. I'm like, the only way that they got that was like Admiral Akbar was recording it and then sent it over the HoloNet or something.
Yeah. Orange Hat Reviews is saying that the Radonium should have blown up the entire installation. Yeah, I thought so too.
Two trucks.
There were two trucks, and like the TIE fighters were able to like launch after the Rhydonium like it blew up. You pointed this out a little bit, I think, Don. But I thought it was just like, and we've talked about this a little bit. So that like after the Operation Cinder and Burning Calm, which I liked, I thought that was really like, I was like, oh, this is something that's really cool. Like I wouldn't mind like seeing what happened there, like learning more information about that. Like that sounds like an interesting battle. And then the fact that it really made Mayfeld really look at the Empire in a different light was also interesting too. But the fact that he was so afraid of being recognized by this guy, and then he's like literally like "F you," like I'm like want to bait you into a fight. And it's like, dude, you're trying to like not blow your cover. What are you doing? Like you were and he was like so smooth before when he was trying to like walk away, and then he's just like, oh, I'm not gonna be smooth anymore. I'm just gonna like bait this guy. And that was total like the writer like trying to get that gunfight. That's all that was.
I can kind of get that. Like you have someone from your past that completely ruined your life. You finally meet them, and there's this twitching urge within you to just blow their face off with every word that they're saying because all that shit that they said to you comes back to you. But the execution of it in this episode was just kind of awkward because of the mission and because of like everything that went up to it. It took me out of the story of it.
Let me just add this real quick.
First,
when he was when Mayfeld was like saying why he didn't want to, he didn't tell Mando like I hate that guy, like I might blow when he saw him. He was just like, dude, I don't want that guy to recognize me.
Yeah.
And I would say this, like, without getting it, I mean, this is a spoiler review, obviously, but like, By the time they get onto when they escape and they're on the Slave One, and Mayfield's like, "Hey, can I have that rifle?" And then just blows up the thing. It's like, well, you could have killed him anyways. Like, it's like, why even get to that point?
Yeah.
Like, they're not understanding the concept of, like, it's just a simple one: cause and effect, character motivation, priorities. Like, they're not all in balance with the narrative of what they're trying to tell. They're being manipulated to fit set pieces, and that's an issue with this part of the series so far.
A lot of series so far.
Especially the whole warning that the Mando gives Gideon. I'm like, no, don't tell him you're coming, man.
Yeah, that was stupid. But the whole purpose of the entire operation to find the coordinates is absolutely idiotic because they literally show Gideon flying in space.
Yeah, he's still in motion. Unless they're finding like a transponder code that they can trace when they're like within a sector or something.
They literally said coordinates.
But they said coordinates, exactly. Like that's the thing. Like they don't even know what their own terminology is going on here. Yeah. It's like unless they we know the destination he's going to. We don't know where he is, but we know his destination. That's different. But they don't specify that. They just talk about coordinates of the ship, and the ship's in motion. So the coordinates will be changing.
And they showed the ship in motion. It wasn't like it was docked at a facility or anything like that. It was like
hanging outside a planet, you know?
It was like the next scene, it's Gideon's light cruiser flying through space. Orange Hat Reviews says I thought Operation Cinder was familiar because I think I did a story on Battlefront 2. There's like a petition to want to continue that story. So yeah,
it's from a video game.
It's from Battlefront 2.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Saying. So I don't know. That kind of takes away from it. I wish it was something like new, like instead of something they've already done. I don't know. Just add in like a different thing. That would have been. But I guess
that's
member berries new in the Mandalorian.
Member berries,
par for the course.
Member berries for Battlefront 2 people is what that was.
That's what it is.
Then they basically shoot their way out, they were going for that Western bank robber feel, rob the bank, and then you gotta shoot your way out.
Cara Dune and Fennec were kind of on point with that. They did their parts fairly well with their cover fire.
I liked how they showed that they had already they were scoping out what they needed to do. They made a point of that, who they needed to take out.
And they were pointing out their plans and shots and all that stuff. Like, oh, there's this guy over here, and I see him, and over there you got a better shot on this guy. Boom, boom, boom. Like, it's mechanical, but it shows some teamwork, which I liked.
Yes, I agree. The only thing that they probably should have done is I know they wanted Mayfeld to have that, but they probably were the ones who should have already planned to blow up the transports. With the Rhydonium in it, and then because you would think Cara Dune would want to do that, given that she hates the Empire, and then potentially you would want to take out the TIE fighters because they saw the TIE fighters, and they would be that might be a problem with Slave One. We would want to take that out.
I'm still wondering if the little backstory that Cara Dune did in last season is going to ever come to fruition, where if her chain code was run, she would be arrested and thrown in a prison or just killed or something like that, because that's what she mentioned. That's why she was hiding on that planet.
In the bar,
and I was waiting for it. And it was something that slipped my mind. It wasn't until 4 a.m. this morning when I'm watching the show. I'm like, wait a minute, why is she still
she's got a badge now?
She has a badge now. I'm thinking, wait a minute, didn't she have a problem with that? My mind was just catching up to the previous season because when I was doing my review for the last one, I would watch Chapter 5 because I wanted to know why Mandalorian said he owed Fennec Shand something in that gunfight. Because I'm like, you were trying to kidnap, you're trying to call in her bounty, and then you found her dead. There's no relationship there for trust or to be payback. And then I was just breezing through some of the other episodes, and I completely forgot about that because that line was kind of thrown away at the time. It's the only reason she's on this planet is to hide from the Empire and the Republic. And then, we forget about that when she's picked up to go to Navarro, and then she stays with I guess Grief Karga, who I don't know. Maybe he cleared out her backstory for her off screen with regards to why she's able to be a marshal and accepted within the Republic. There's all these little gaps that weren't addressed.
I think Navarro is kind of off the. I think Navarro is still off the New Republic's radar, given the fact that there's an Imperial base there. So I think he just kind of had her on to kind of maybe just act as a sheriff to keep things in order, and she just wanted to stay on there. She found a place to be, but then she's just literally the sheriff of Navarro, and then that X-wing pilot shows up doing an investigation, and I guess I didn't see this, but I guess he hands her the badge.
He leaves it on a table for her, but he brings up, "Oh, you're from Alderaan." He's like, "Yeah." But he's like, he doesn't bring up, "Oh yeah, you used to be a drop trooper who I guess committed some crime against the New Republic in between the time of the war and now." And I mean, if they wanted to try and pull that, these are trying times things that they did in episode 2 with the Mandalorian about his criminals, like, "Hey, yeah, we would arrest you, but you blew up an Imperial base and rid the Empire off this planet. So here's your Marshal badge," because it's just that easy now.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and we're just like, what? Like, okay, she got her upgrade off screen, and
got her
she did
stripes,
like a
yeah.
side mission off screen or something to get her upgrade. That's one thing he didn't. Mando didn't really get an upgrade this episode.
No, but I mean, it did have a more focused goal because it wasn't as transactional as all the other ones. It's basically like, we need this guy to help us get in here, but my goal is I'm going to get this data, and then we're going to find the ship and get inside it. There wasn't too much back and forth with regards to, like, the Mayfield wasn't the one making the deal, as it has been for the Mandalorian in other instances where other people are saying, "Oh yeah, I'll help you get here, but you got to help me first." It's more like Mando's like, "I'm taking you, and you're going to help me," and
right.
That's just it right now. Like, there's no intended trade-off at the end of it.
Yeah, it was very similar to what they did with the blue guy in 2 episodes ago, where they took out the Imperial base in Navarro. Yeah, which I like that. I like that. They're like, dude, you don't have, like, you owe me like 20 life debts. Like, just because you're driving a skiff doesn't get you out. You might. I'll just take off like 100, or I'll take off like 5 life debts. You still owe me 15 or something like that. Whatever it was some absurd number.
Like 350 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so Orange Hat is saying that apparently Rhydonium is only mined from one planet, and that was in the Clone Wars, and that apparently is not the planet Morak, which is where they were. They were on this planet Morak.
Right. Well, are they mining it or just transporting it? That's the other thing.
It's hard. Well, I think they were. He said it was a mining facility.
Were they using the Rhydonium as explosives for their mines, though?
I don't think so, because Hess says that he was going to use it to create chaos when he's talking to Mayfield. Right. He says he's going to use it to. They're going to use it to
cause destabilization.
Destabilization in the New Republic. Okay, I must have missed that. Again, I saw the episode this morning, and I've only had a couple hours sleep. But yeah, I mean, he might. Right.
I also thought what was interesting. He was just like, the New Republic is already dying. Like, he was already they're already fighting each other, and I was like, what?
5 years into it.
I was like, they just gave her a Marshal badge in Navarro. What's going on? They're already extending to the Outer Rim, and even the Empire had never been in the Outer Rim. They're establishing a presence. That seems the opposite of an organization that is having issues that should be expanding. Yeah. So and then you get basically Mando sending the same message that Gideon sent to him back to him. I just thought that was just, I don't know.
It's very bookendish.
It was uninspiring. I was just thinking while we were talking here. So remember the first episode, he's literally tasked with finding the Baby Yoda. Wouldn't it have been really interesting if if he was still trying to find Baby Yoda from the interesting task, and he had been going through all of he's just been trying to track this one bounty or something like that, and then he gets involved in the war between the Republic and the Empire and stuff like that. Very Witcher style, I guess. You can get these bounties, and then you get involved in other things as you're traveling from town to town or something like that. I don't know. That would have had much more of a, like you were saying, much more of a focus throughout, where it's just there isn't at least now there's a focus. He's got to go save Baby Yoda again, yeah, which he did last time in one episode, I think. And then at the end, there was a focus where they had to take out Herzog or something like that to stop the bounty hunters from continually going after him, which for some reason the FOBs don't exist anymore, probably because we said they were absolutely stupid and it didn't make any sense. And they realized it too.
Yeah, they're just forgetting about those.
But yeah, so I mean, I like the set pieces, the action pieces, but again, it's the same complaints, small details that don't really make sense. The whole point of the episode if you actually think about it, doesn't make any sense because they're trying to get coordinates for a starship, for a Star Destroyer, and literally at the end of the episode, the Star Destroyer is flying through space, so its coordinates are changing. So, it's hard to really like the show when you actually start like thinking about it critically.
It's not even a lot of stretch of thought. It's just like, hey, how does that work?
I mean, I watched it, and I have like this is probably the most notes I've taken in a while. Because I guess I did like if I turned my brain off, I did like enjoy the action set pieces. But I mean, that's what I've been saying for a while now. Like the action set pieces are pretty well done, but everything else leading up to it or tying into it is just.
Here's the problem with this episode in particular. During that scene where Bill Burr is having that conversation with Val Ortiz or whatever his name is, Val Hess, it engages your mind to start thinking. And then once your mind starts thinking, you're starting to think of all the other inconsistencies that are happening within the show. And then it defeats itself.
I think the conversation between Mando and Mayfeld, when he's talking about like, what is your code? What do you actually do? That really gets you thinking even more than the conversation with Hess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it destroys the conversation that he had earlier with Mando.
It does.
Yeah.
But on top of that too, I would say there's a tonal inconsistency with the conversation that is happening between Hess and Bill Burr's character. Like Bill Burr is clearly making accusations and judgmental against the Empire, and the Hess guy is completely responding in a way like he doesn't even understand what the other guy is saying. Like he's just saying, isn't it a good idea that I burned them down? Isn't it a good idea that they were heroes to the Empire? Isn't it a good idea? It's like, are you not listening to this dude? Like he's calling you out, man. Like this subordinate is calling you out in front of another officer, and you're just casually brushing it off. And
it goes to what we said: they're idiots. They're just written as idiots. Like they think the Imperials are stupid idiots for the most part. Like, and they've shown us that throughout this season. Like literally, 2 or 3 episodes ago when they were on Navarro, they literally have a stormtrooper jump off point with the speeder bikes to like go down this mountain, and you assume that they've trained that because that's where they built it. You would think that they have trained going off that mountain. What do? They have them crash into each other. Like, come on.
They have 2 of them blow up. Yeah, like as if they've never done this before.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is the terrible part when you make enemies that are stupid, because it makes your heroes even dumber. Because if your enemy Empire was able to take over the galaxy, how pathetic was your galaxy prior to their existence? If they were able to be taken over so easily by these idiots, like you're just not seeing the big picture. It's like it's not a battle of wits. It's just a form of like idiocy and laziness.
Well, if you really want to, I'm gonna go there. Like this is leading to sequel trilogy. The Emperor is still alive. Like playing marionettes. He doesn't. They kill people. They kill people that are ineffective. Vader force chokes you through the TV. Like they don't suffer idiots. Yeah. It's like you have failed me for the last time because you're so dumb that you dropped into hyperspace too close to the planet. Like you're an idiot.
Gave the rebels warning, and the thing is that even though that happened, they still succeeded to an extent. They took out a lot of rebels. Sure, some ships got away, and the Millennium Falcon got away, but they found a rebel base and they took it out with very little casualties on their side. Like maybe one AT-AT Walker because they didn't get the second one down.
I think 2. I think Luke took out one, and I think one of the.
2 were taken out.
I think 2.
You're right. Yeah, Luke took out one, and then before that he helped Wedge take out the first one. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just it's like, and we haven't even. What did Moff Gideon do? He's like shown up, did a big parade. He kills his own guy. Kills Werner Herzog, and then. And then he's just been he flies around in the TIE fighter, and then for the most part he's just flying around in his spaceship, like not doing anything. Like you think he would be suffering these people who are so stupid? No, he wouldn't either. He killed Werner Herzog.
It was good.
Yeah, who was actually had acquired the Baby Yoda again.
What was one of the things that Ben Kenobi did with when he in the original trilogy? He was talking about the ability to like have the stormtroopers like
the Force Force has a great influence on the weak-minded.
Every stormtrooper, every Empire person is a freaking weak mind now.
Yeah, they took that one line and like
expanded.
Well, they didn't understand. Here's the thing, right? So within the confines of like, if you want to compare the Empire to a military organization, with the United States, the military has a limit of IQ, of minimum IQ you need to join, and I would not think it's different for the Empire. Like, you have to have a minimum IQ to join, but there's like that range where if you're still a stormtrooper after so many years, you're probably going to be a weak-minded guy, but very good at your job because you're able to follow instructions, you're able to learn the physical skills you need to do your job, but you may not have like the imagination or the strength of will of character to either move up in rank or question any orders that you think are going to be counterintuitive to your own survival. And I can understand that, but just because a stormtrooper doesn't question, like, going into like a suicide type mission or what have you, doesn't mean that they're going to be bad at their job anyways. That's the thing. That's why the military has that IQ cutoff. They're like, this person can learn exactly what we need them to do and do it effectively because this is how we've done the training part of it. And if they want to be really great shots, they're going to be trained and taught to be the best shots they can in order to graduate to that stormtrooper level. Doesn't mean if they're a genius to fortify like strategy or anything. It's like, nope, we put them down, they're going to shoot, they're going to hit their target. That's what we need them to do. That's fine.
And I do want to point out, in the original movie, they might have fooled the original stormtroopers that are doing the inspections, but they do eventually have a spy that lets them know that those droids are going on to Solo's ship, and then they have to bust out of
Hangar Bay 94, yeah,
Hangar Bay 94 on whatever why am I blanking on the
Tatooine Mos Eisley thing?
Mos Eisley, thank you.
Yeah,
That's what I was blanking on. I was like, oh my god, it was like the hive of scum and villainy. What is it called? Why can't I think of this? Mos Eisley. And the stormtroopers are there shooting at them as they fly off.
Yeah.
They
still found the droids. They just were a little too late. But I mean, it shows effectiveness, right? Like, even if they're dumb or weak-minded, they still have the tools they need to be effective for what they are. And
for me, that just shows the power of a Jedi as well.
Exactly.
Rather than stormtroopers being idiots, because you literally have. Because remember, right before that, when they're when they're investigating the Sandcrawler, what does Obi-Wan say about stormtroopers?
The blasted marks are too precise for sand people. Only Imperial troops are so accurate.
Right.
Or so precise, or what have you. And then on top of that too, like, the stormtroopers figured out the droids were in the escape pod pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then
and they tracked them to the Jawas.
To the Sandcrawler, and then they tracked the Sandcrawler to Uncle and Aunt Beru, so they're able to follow investigations and clues.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, even when they're on the Death Star, the two stormtroopers are having that conversation with Obi-Wan by the tractor beam controls. Like, Obi-Wan mind tricks them, but he mind tricks them with like a sound or something. He doesn't just force mind trick them either. So he does what he could do to get away.
Them with a sound, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that they did a good job of getting rid of the fobs. Now they need to like really actually make the villains.
Threatening.
Someone like have someone get wounded at least. Like, when was the last time someone was like, the last time Mando was wounded was the final episode last year, but then they insta healed him with the Bacta spray.
Yeah, and before that they murdered Quill, and then those same guys that murdered him couldn't hit a can a few meters away.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Quill? Who's Quill?
Quill.
The Ugnaught.
I have spoken.
Okay, they got him. The speeder bike guys, they got him. Okay, yeah.
They got him somehow, a moving target on a blurg, but a tin can not moving anywhere.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes. Yeah, they really need to figure that out. Mark 636 says Mando stormtroopers lost the intelligence using space Twitter. Queel is Orange Chat is saying how it's pronounced. Okay.
Yeah, it's Queel, but it's like Quil. So it's spelling and pronouncing is. Yeah.
That's whatever.
Like, he was a good character. He was a good character, and you felt something when he
Yes.
He died.
Because he actually he gave some training to Mando and gave him some sage advice and helped him out with the Jawas, which I didn't like that though, but he did help him negotiate with the Jawas.
All the stuff with like Quill was the entertaining part, but like everything else was just around. It was weird.
And he actually took his time to rebuild the
Razor Crest.
The Razor Crest.
And also he took his time to rebuild IG-11 and
he repurposed IG-11. Yeah. Which he has not come back yet. I think he's dead. He blew himself up. He's not coming back.
Well, that's good. There's some, death has consequences.
To a droid.
Well, who's going to die next week's episode? Because a friend of mine who was working in post said that Bill Burr was originally going to die this episode, but that didn't end up happening. No. So I figured that they changed that, or he was pulled off on
Boba.
Another thing.
The writing's on the wall, Boba.
No, there's rumors
Razor Crest is gone. So guess who gets the ship?
Boba could have other ships. I mean, in the EU canon, he's had more than one ship.
The rumor is Boba gets his own series.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we saw that lineup.
They haven't released everything because there are 3 other shows they're supposed to drop, and the reason they're not releasing them is because they would potentially spoil the last 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, there's more Mando spinoffs I think coming.
Yeah, Rangers. I'd be very surprised if Rangers was a Cara Dune show.
You're surprised if it is?
Yeah, I think the Rangers has more to do with that Carson character, the X-Wing pilot, and what he does.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh, the Asian guy?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's him exactly, but I think it would be the same department of whatever he's in.
Don knows this, but that was when I saw that, my initial was like, oh, it's Dave Filoni, and he's making a series about himself as the X-Wing pilot.
I would not put it past him.
That's what I thought immediately. I didn't even think
X-Wing stuff with Rogue Squadron.
That's a movie 3 years away.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And the Rangers are not just X-Wing pilots. They're basically like, they're Rangers. They go to a town. They probably try to liberate it from the Empire or try to get things under control with the lack of infrastructure of the New Republic. And then from there, they go back. They might have all types of ships. They might have a freighter ship. They might have the U-Wing. They might have an A-Wing.
An A-Wing. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing an A-Wing. I like those A-Wings.
I hated that presentation. Just tell me what the show is about.
An investor's presentation, it was barely anything about investment. It was like, oh, this is our show lineup. Like, this is what you see at Rockefeller Studio when you go on the tour and you sit down in the theater room. It's like, these are the shows coming in the season of 2021. Like, it doesn't tell you that, like, an investors meeting tells you their action plan of what they are going to do with the company, but all they talked about was Disney Plus.
Yeah. They never gave any release dates. They didn't really give release dates for any of the Star Wars stuff either. Most of it did not have any.
None of it's officially in production except for the Ahsoka Tano show, as far as I know.
Even the Obi-Wan show isn't in production, but they gave a sizzle reel, and I was like, what are they showing them? Like old clips from Revenge of the Sith? Like,
probably. Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. Like, they're just showing old clips of Revenge of the Sith.
They showed old clips of Rogue One for the Cassian Andor thing, and I'm like, they haven't even, like, there's nothing there.
Yeah. Orange Hat's saying there. I don't think so. I think she's there for the long haul.
No, the board of directors are going to look at this. They're going to look at the successes versus the failures for her. And with The Mandalorian, because producers do take credit for stuff that they have little involvement in, and she does have little involvement in The Mandalorian. Her name's on it pretty much, and that's it. But she can say it's my show, even though we know the truth. But they can look at it and be like, okay, so each movie that she gave a green light has made money, excluding Solo, to a point. Didn't make the money they wanted, and regardless of the fan contention, we're bringing fans back with the Disney Plus series, and she's the one that has green lighting power on all of those. So even though she's doing that, they could say, listen, there's no reason for her not to still do this job right now, because number one, they've had a year and a half to set up someone to come in and succeed Kathleen Kennedy at Disney Lucasfilm. There are no names out on the list that do that. There's lots of fans that want Favreau and Filoni, but has anyone asked if Favreau and Filoni want that job? Because I know for a fact they don't. They're not interested in that. It doesn't matter what the fans want. It's what if Favreau wanted to be head of a production studio, something like Lucasfilm, he would be. He would not be a director. He would not be a showrunner. He does have his own little one that he's doing, which he's fine with. But
that's what he does with his cooking show, right? With Netflix?
Yeah. That's what he does with his cooking show. And then you have someone like, say, for instance, Ron Howard, and he has a business partner with over at Imagine. Ron Howard maybe owned that company, but he doesn't run it as much. He's a director. He's got someone to do that for him, and he's a great creative as well. So
Ryan Johnson has Ram Bergman as his partner.
Yes,
they have their
for their own little production company.
Yeah.
And J.J. Abrams has his wife, for his production company. And so the thing is, who has been positioned in Disney, Lucasfilm, or in the public to succeed Kathleen Kennedy? Nobody, which means that her contract may be up, but they'll just do soft extensions of it until they find someone to succeed her. And the board of directors are going to be happy with it so long as the money's coming in. And with the increase of price of Disney Plus this year, and that's going to double by the end of next year. So it's gone up from $6.99 to $7.99. I think by the end of next year, it'll be $14.99 because they'll have all those shows from Marvel and whatnot. And then I think from there, they'll be like, yep, we're making in tons of money. Everything seems to be okay. So this is going to be the status quo for the time being. And, we're not going to change upper management or anything unless people want to retire or move on.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I definitely think there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. But let's wrap it up here. Do you want to get? I mean, I don't want to. So script, you don't have to, because I know you have your own review.
Don't want to spoil too much of what you got.
Yeah.
For your
I'm still working on it, but yeah, it's good to talk to you guys again. It's been a while. My schedule's been hectic for the last month.
Same here.
It's glad to have you back. My schedule was crazy too. I took a vacation, but yeah, with the baby, it's definitely an adjustment. So, but we're working through it. But yeah, do we want to give a final score? I'll start. The action and set pieces, I really do like those, but the story is just, there's so many errors that are easily fixed, should be fixed, and they should have been fixed. Like, you expect better from these people. I think a four overall.
Dang, you're kinder than I am.
You're harsher. 5.
Yeah, you're harsher than I am. I gave it a 5. This is just standard because, I agree. There was action set pieces that really stepped up the game in terms of, like, Mando actually doing some close quarters combat.
Yes,
I barely see that because he's always using whistling Pete's and blowtorches.
We didn't even talk about that. It looked like he was actually taking physical damage because he wasn't in his super armor.
Yeah, he kind of acknowledged that. I think he got hit in the arm, and his entire armor on the arm.
Well, he tried to block.
I don't have that to protect myself anymore. This ain't best.
Oh crap!
Yeah, he tried to block, and it was like, oh, that hurts. So that's why I said the choreography was good. But so you're at a 5. On my scale, a 5 is average, 4 is like below average. So it's below average. So script, you don't have to give us a number if you don't want to, because I know you got.
I don't know how to aggregate the numbers, but what I'll say is that there's some good directing in this episode and some bad directing in this episode, and the script needed another pass.
I feel like with we've said that for almost every single episode this season. Script needed another pass,
especially the one with 19 pages.
Well, if you think that was like, how long do you think these other ones are, man? The longest episode was the first episode, and that was the only real what we initially expected we were going to get length of an episode.
Yeah, we're hoping for that to be consistent for the season, and it wasn't. And I mean, it was a pretty decent episode, and it kind of had a payoff with the armor part too, but it also felt like filler at the same. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole season has been very weird. It has literally been a public pitch for other television shows that Disney Plus could produce and run.
And there they are.
Which I was kind of expecting for as soon as we heard word of Rosario Dawson. It's like, okay, if they're bringing her in, they're going to be trying to pitch other shows because they need more content on Disney Plus. And with Disney taking literally a year off from external pitching, they're basically just scrambling all the stuff that they had in development and trying to get that out so that they can give themselves some headway for their streaming service and then catch up for all the other content. And like this season is kind of. I pointed this out last night when we were doing our reaction to Investor Day.
But I found it really interesting. I expected this Marvel would be last because Marvel is king.
Marvel has the most
king.
in development that's ready to go.
It's also the king content for them.
Mm-hmm.
But Star Wars was before National Geographic.
Yep. I know.
So
it's because Star Wars hasn't done anything yet. They finished The Mandalorian season 2. I think they're in production of season 3 right now. I think they're also in production of Ahsoka Tano. I think those are the only 2 that are actually got some film rolled.
That's so weird.
I'm not sure about Rangers. That might be in the new year, but they don't have anything else ready to go. Like Obi-Wan isn't ready to go.
The scripts were done like 3 years ago, though, or whatever.
And then they changed them again because it was supposed to take place 8 years after the Revenge of the Sith. And with their new announcement, it's like, oh, it's 10 years now, and Darth Vader's involved, and there's supposedly some sort of rematch. Which I'm like, I think she doesn't know what the series is about, because any rematch they're going to have, it's most likely going to be with Maul and Obi-Wan, because they are both alive at that time, according to the new canon. And this also predates Star Wars Rebels, so and they could probably throw that out of the window too if they wanted. But if they were to try and face Obi-Wan and Vader again, it's like, well, you're just kind of pulling all the air out of that fight that happened on the Death Star in the movie that started this whole thing.
Yeah.
and if the Vader thing is true, holy cow, the people will just...
Well, it's a waste of Hayden Christensen if you're not going to have him, like, you have to show his face, right? So, I mean, otherwise there's no point in having him, because it's just a guy in a suit.
That's usually what it is.
I mean, that's what Pascal is supposed to be doing with Mando, right? He was supposed to be a guy
But he's at least providing the
so.
voice. Like, Hayden doesn't provide the voice. James Earl Jones provides the voice, and he's still alive.
I will say Hayden did a really good job when he was in the suit, because he did that scene where he did the no scene and he breaks out.
Yep.
And, like, he was the one who did that. That was excellently acted. He did not do the pickup shot at the end where Vader and the Emperor are looking out into the...
On the Death Star, no, that was a stunt guy.
Yeah, that was a stunt guy. But he did that. The scene where he's like, we first see Vader, like that was such great acting with like what he did with his body and everything. Like, it was great. Like how he brings his hands out of the.
Well, they reshot that one too, because his hands were originally up by his head.
Oh yeah, you're right. But that was still really cool though. I really like that. I mean, because I did a story. I did a rumor story about you. I guess you saw that. But we did a rumor story early today. I got the video up, but Mark's is saying that was cheesy. No, it wasn't. It was not cheesy.
He's thinking about the other no.
Oh, the no scene? I didn't think that was cheesy. Maybe a little bit. The no
physicality was fine. The way they got James Earl Jones to scream it was a little.
Okay. Yeah, the no was a little bit, but I don't know. I felt that you still felt the passion he had for Padme. Like, and how just like it destroyed him that to like find out that she died, she was dead, and then to believe that he killed her. Like, I don't know. Just
I think he's talking about the Return of the Jedi, the inserted scene.
Oh, the inserted no in that latest version of it, because there's 2 no's. There's the one that Luke says when he's falling, or like it's the no and then the scream.
That's an Empire.
That's an Empire, yeah. That's the first one, and then the other one was like Vader does the no as he picks up Palpatine and throws.
Yeah, that's the one they inserted, rather than Vader
really?
being quiet and looking at what's going on.
They put it dialogue in Return.
Yeah. You remember that?
No, I don't remember watching that.
How could you forget?
It was on the most. It was the second to most recent update of the OT, I think.
People were so pissed at it because it lost that internal dialogue that was happening with Vader.
You didn't need to hear it, yeah.
You didn't need to hear it.
Yeah. All right. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. We do this every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I think there's only one left, so, right? I think
and then there's Marvel.
Episodes in a week away.
Yeah, so we got one more left. So look forward to the finale next week. So thank you all, and have a great night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.